a very detailed SJM debrief. Welcome to the Lesson a Day podcast. Don't ask us to explain the name. We're not going to. I'm Kay.
I'm Kiko.
And we're here to talk about books, movies, TV shows, geeky things. Major spoiler warnings for anything written by Sarah J. Maas ever if you've read the title. Maybe some other stuff too. But we're going to finally commit to something we said we were going to do a very long time ago. And we're going to do a very detailed SJM debrief. So we're going to talk about Throne of Glass, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Crescent City. And to talk about this stuff with us, we have a very special guest.
Hi. Thank you for having me. This has been in the works for what? Almost a year now?
Okay, well, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. This is fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we specifically wanted you on because I don't know if you remember, but the first time we met, I think, was talking about ACOTAR.
It was very likely, honestly. It's probably true.
Do you remember this? We were in the library after school, and the two of you were there together, and you were introducing
You didn't know Ida
me.
then?
No, because I think I didn't switch into her stats class until like right after that. So the first time we ever met,
Fate.
you guys were like, you need to read this book.
Wait. Whose fault is this? Who started it all?
Well,
I
No, because I read
remember
Throne of
that
Glass first.
you and another friend were reading Throne of Glass. And like both of y'all were talking about it and how good it was and stuff. And so I think that summer I downloaded the book and I started reading it. Or like
Am I patient
pretty
zero?
soon
I
out
guess
of-
so.
No, I think you
Afterwards.
probably found out on your own, and then we discovered we read it.
No. So what I read Throne of Glass, probably a little too young. I read it, I was like, it was 13 or 14 years ago at this point that I read Throne of Glass.
When did it come out?
No idea. But I was still in middle school, so take from that what you will.
So Throne of Glass came out in 2012.
Yeah, so I think I read it like as it came out because
Okay.
I believe I read the second book when it came out. So
Yeah, I think at least the first 2 or 3 books were published maybe by the time I had
read it. Yeah. So I didn't know about ACOTAR at all. I only knew about Throne of Glass. I think I had started to read the third book and we were talking about that, and then you said, if you haven't read it, read ACOTAR. I think you told me it was better too. So
Yeah, I do remember this.
Yeah.
do remember this.
So and then B, you seconded that.
Yeah.
And that's when we first met.
Okay. My bad.
We'll get into that.
But I genuinely thought at the time that ACOTAR was better than Throne of Glass. I honestly don't know why I thought that.
That's a take.
I think I thought that the writing
maybe-
was better.
I think maybe you had only read the first book by then, or like the
Of
first.
ACOTAR?
Yeah, maybe like the
Probably.
first or first 2.
First two.
Because I think those are my preference if I like the series, like because I don't want to use the word favorite, but like my preference would be the first 2 books if I had to reread something.
Right. If you had to like order it.
So before we sort of get into it, I do want to like explain sort of what Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, and we're talking about Crescent City too. So they're 3 separate series written by a extremely popular author right now, Sarah J. Maas. All of these books are sort of connected in some way or another, which is why we're talking about them all together. I also don't know if she's written anything else.
No, she
I
hasn't.
don't think so.
I checked because I was curious. So I was like, how much is she ringing this? She's ringing it.
Yeah.
She really hasn't written anything outside of this universe.
Yeah, so we'll get into like the summaries of all of the books. I don't think we will talk about every single plot point because look, some of these books are like 800 pages long and I don't want to be here 3 hours summarizing everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, and you guys can disagree with me, I think if anyone is interested in reading it, I do think that they're worth checking out if you want to know the plot. And like as like a brief overall theme, they're all about fairies, the fae,
Yeah.
every single one of them. Even when they shouldn't be, they're about
At least
the fae.
the first like 2 2.5 books.
Of
Two
Throne-
books
yeah, to be
are not.
fair,
2.5 books
the
are
first
not of
two-ish
Throne of
books of
Glass.
Throne of Glass were not.
Yeah.
When I read them, that's why it was so shocking to me to find out that Throne of Glass and ACOTAR were connected in any way, because I have only read the first 2 Throne of
Yeah,
Glass.
it just feels like such a different world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so different.
And when it came to the third book of Throne of Glass, I'm sorry, I started to read it, but I was so bored.
It was Queen of
It
Shadows.
was
as the third
so
one.
boring that I
Queen
kind
of
of
No,
just
Air
gave up.
Fire.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you said read ACOTAR, so I think I literally dropped the third Throne of Glass book to read ACOTAR, and I think that was a good choice, and I have no interest in going back. So
Well, I'm gonna say, like, that was a good choice. The first 2 books of Throne of Glass are the best, in my opinion.
Actually, I still think that the first Throne of Glass book is one of the best books I've read.
Yeah,
Like,
I
'cause
think
just
Throne of Glass was so good for me. Like,
yeah.
I'll talk about it more in depth later.
Well, you can talk about it more right now, unless you have something else.
No, I mean, I cannot really speak for Throne of Glass because it has been probably a decade since I've actually read the
Yeah,
books.
same.
But I would say Throne of Glass and maybe like the first 2. I would argue 3, but 3 is when it started.
Yeah,
going down.
that's why I said
Mhm.
like 2.5.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I would say the first 2 books were when I think that Sarah J. Maas was very serious about the plot, where the focus wasn't just on the romance. And I mean, I feel like we can go talk about this like later on too, but I think where it started going downhill was when she started focusing only on the romance between not just the main characters, but the side characters as well.
That's so interesting because the first book does have a romance in
It
it.
does, but
the thing is,
it's not
It's more of like an affair.
and it doesn't overshadow the overarching plot, right? There are monsters that she has to face, there are trials that she has to face, and it does go into detail describing it and her character development and all of that. So
Like,
I
the
think
romance doesn't affect, if you took the romance out of the equation, it wouldn't affect the plot.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
true, yeah.
yeah.
The second one maybe a little less so, because I think that's like a motivating factor for some things, but yeah.
But I think it was done
But it
very
was
well.
still- yes.
Right?
In an interesting way where it's like woven in with the plot and it
Yeah.
doesn't like draw a focus from what's going on in the story. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, Kiko, you want to start us off on a summary of Throne of Glass?
Yeah.
We're just going to go back to back to back to give everyone context for everything that happens in these 3 books. Not everything. Most of what happens in these 3 series so that we can start talking about all the plot points in detail. So Throne of Glass.
All right. After a year of slavery, an infamous teenage assassin named. Okay, look. I still in my head. I
5
don't know.
seconds in.
How the hell do you pronounce Selena?
I think it's Selena. She has like a
Selena?
pronunciation guide at the end.
Selena.
Selena.
I always thought it was
Pronunciation
Selena.
guides are always ignored. Look, it's gonna be said a certain way in my head anyways.
That's true. That's true. I still pronounce Rhysand as Rysand.
Yo,
So-
Rhysand being Reese as in Reese's Cups is so weird to me.
No, because I call him Rice in my head.
No, are
I
you
called
kidding?
rice
I'm
in
not
my
calling
head.
this poor boy Rice, all right? Is he as boring as White Rice? Maybe. But we need to call him that.
Let's be real. There's no brown rice at all in the book.
Oh, damn. We're starting early. Look, we're about
Just
to get
tan
into
rice. Anyway. Sorry.
rice with a tinge of soy sauce.
Golden rice. Anyway.
Golden rice.
Sorry.
Anyway, we're about to get into some real weird pronunciations. Some of these names are real special. It's fantasy.
Yeah. It'll be even more special because I'm pronouncing it and I ignore pronunciation guides. Okay,
All right, go.
I'm gonna restart this. After a year of slavery, an infamous teenage assassin named Selena is given the chance to become the tyrannical king's personal assassin / king's champion by the representing Prince Dorian in a competition against the most gifted thieves and assassins in the land. She must survive every test and trial in order to proceed to the final, in which she has to fight her remaining opponents. As candidates are found dead in the castle, their bodies ruptured, Selena finds herself delving deep into the mysteries concerning not only her, but her very own ancestors and the creatures of darkness that dwell deep beneath the castle. There's obviously, this was a brief summary. Like, there's obviously so much more in detail, but there's like 15 billion books, so we're not gonna get
I
to
think
that.
the only other things, if I remember correctly, to add is that Selena does win at the end and becomes the king's assassin.
The second book starts with her like
Yeah.
carrying out orders.
Yeah.
But right. Oh, I should mention, right? She's brought out of the salt mines where she was enslaved by Kale,
I think is how it's pronounced.
I always
You know, in my head, my eyes see kale, but in my head it's charcoal.
Dude, wait, actually, yeah,
The letters are the same.
I think I pronounced it like coal or something.
Yeah, I think that's what I
pronounced it as like cal,
Yeah.
Cowl.
Yeah.
I think it was either kale or like charcoal or like coal, something like that. Anyways, he's the King's Guard and Dorian's bestie.
Yep.
Also, the king's name is also King Dorian
very
Havillard or whatever the hell. The king's name
is Dorian?
I was pretty shook because I completely forgot that.
I don't think she ever mentioned his name, from what I remember.
The king's name is King of Aderlan, Dorian Havillard. The name is so complicated. Havillard the First.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, that is
Villli.
Yeah, listen.
I mean, that is cool. That's cool.
The names don't start getting weird until later, I think.
ACOTAR
in my head, I probably read it.
We're not going to talk about the naming conventions in Crescent City. All right. Like, Rune, what's up? Like,
Rune Factory 4.
Oh, man.
Anyways, yeah. Okay. We're just going back to back, right?
Yeah, book 2.
So book 2, Crown of Midnight. Selena, the king's champion, must win her freedom by butchering every person the king asks her to, but she cannot bear to kill for the crown. With every death she fakes, she puts her close friends at risk. Selena must choose between the captain and a prince. So that's Kale and Dorian.
That happens in the first book, no? Doesn't she reject Dorian, book 1?
Yeah. I mean, it's all a lot of back and forth, right? And must battle forces more threatening than the king. She also reunites with an old colleague, becomes obsessed with the rebel movement, and learns more about the king's source of power. Heir of Fire, book 3. Selena travels to Wendlin, a land where magic is still free because magic has like stopped. They cut magic off in Aderlan.
I think it's important to note that Wendlin is like an island, or it's not part of like the continent or whatever that Selena was in the first 2 books.
So she travels to Wendlin, where the magic is still free, to undergo Fae training because, surprise, Faes are here. They've arrived. Training with the powerful and cold immortal Fae warrior, Rowan Whitethorn. Tensions high between them. The pair must work together to stop evil forces from wreaking havoc, and Selena learns to accept herself as the Queen of Terrasen because she's a lost princess.
Whose actual name is Aelin.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in Aderlan, Kale teams up with General Aiden. Jesus Christ. Adian. Ash. Jesus Christ times 2. Asher?
Ashriver?
Ashriver, I think.
Ashriver. Ashriver sounds cooler.
Yeah.
So you know what? Maybe you should be doing this.
Jesus Christ, these names.
You should be doing the pronunciation guides.
Kale teams up with General Adian Ashriver to rebel against the king, and Dorian struggles to understand his growing powers. I think Adian, whatever his name is Aelin's or Selena's cousin.
Yeah. Don't ask me how I still remember this, actually.
There's also a character named Man in Blackbeak, an immortal Iron Teeth witch, competes in the competition against other witches in order to become the official wing leader of the clan. And this takes place in another place called Marath, I think.
Okay, I don't remember.
Honestly, yeah, I only remember it because I skipped her.
Dude,
I
so
skimmed through
boring.
her parts because I don't know if this is because the parts were actually boring and I'm just biased, or like,
no, Manon's parts, I think I see a lot of people saying it too, but they were so boring.
You know what? I actually, now that I'm remembering, that is one of the reasons that I dropped the book, because this is where I dropped it. I think when they started introducing Manon, I was like, at that point, book 1 had been completely, I think, from Selena and Dorian and maybe Kale. I don't even remember, but it wasn't that many viewpoints. But once they started throwing more viewpoints in there, and we weren't advancing the story forward at all, I was kind of just like, you know what, I'm out.
I think that's one of my biggest complaints about.
I think that was the downfall of the series. Was she added way too many main characters, and
I think
she stretched.
I think
herself
at
thin.
this point she still like had passion for this, or like she still wanted to do something with the world, because I can imagine her being like, okay, there's all these characters that I loved and created, and I want people to know what about the characters and what they're thinking and stuff. And so she did the POVs, but it ultimately didn't work out, I don't think. Anyways,
and you know what's crazy? This is around the same time that Heroes of Olympus was coming out.
Seriously?
Yeah, and so those books are filled with so many POVs, and every single POV is so good. So it's like, you can do it.
I was still a tiny bit confused, but like it worked.
It worked.
The thing is that I think Rick Riordan planned it that way from the beginning. I get a sense that SJM didn't do that with these books.
That's possible.
Yeah.
She's probably like, okay, so how am I gonna randomly drop Manon in, you know? And so she was like,
maybe Manon and the others started out as side characters.
yeah, because Manon like is unrelated to everyone, right?
Yeah.
So
in the beginning,
suddenly, and it's told through the perspectives of Aelin, Dorian, and Kale, and like they haven't met Manon yet. So like I think that was kind of her only option.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with adding in a new character in the middle. It does provide for a more tougher sell, especially as you like get into the middle of like the story, like the overarching story, and you're already used to like the main characters, and then you try to add in another one. You'd have to like the standards are already high, so you kind of have to meet those too.
I mean, honestly, have you read Game of Thrones?
No, I've not.
Okay, that's another problem I have with that series, is just like once you start adding too many viewpoints, I only care about some of them. Like,
yeah,
there's very few times I feel like this has been done well. And I don't feel like this was one of them. Of course, I don't know how relevant Manon becomes to like the overall art, like plot. Could you like take her out of the series and nothing would change, or is she important?
Remember.
I think she was like kind of relevant in defeating,
so.
but I think you could take her out. I don't really care. Like, don't think she would really affect it. She's a love interest. She gets together with Dorian in the end,
which was hella weird.
No, every single character gets paired up.
Yeah,
every single. No, I'm not even kidding. Every single character gets paired up.
We need to talk about that. When we move on to like some of the themes in these books, we need to talk about that. But let's get through the summary first.
All right, book 4, Queen of Shadows. I think I actually liked Queen of Shadows.
I liked it too. Thought the ending was very convenient. I like the fact that Aelin suddenly became like this super clever mastermind.
She was
making up all of these plans, moving chess pieces.
There were some really cool reunions in Queen of Shadows. That's why I think I told you once. I know you dropped the series, but at least read Queen of Shadows.
So what happens in this book? Is that it?
Okay. Stronger than ever, Aelin returns to Rifthold, this time as a free woman. Upon her return, she learns that much has changed since she left, including the capture of her long-lost cousin, Aedion, and the possession of her friend Dorian at the hands of a Valg prince. I think he's just like a demon prince. Aelin teams up with Kale's team of rebels and her former master, the king of assassins, Arabin Hamel, determined to get her revenge for the 10 years of pain inflicted by freeing magic and killing the king of Adarlan and rescuing Dorian. Across Adarlan and Morath, so where Manon is, she's forced to use her witches to produce evil monsters as weapons. As she struggles between her duties and growing morals, she befriends Elide Locken, a servant girl who's the rightful lady of Peranth and the daughter of Aelin's nursemaid as a child. And Elide she's mistreated, and I think she has a limp leg, or like she has a leg that like doesn't work.
Her leg was like injured somehow.
Yeah.
And never allowed to heal properly.
So she really struggles to walk and stuff.
Okay. Next book.
Empire of Storms. Aelin is determined to never turn her back on her kingdom again, because as a child she was like 8 or something, and her parents were killed, so she had no choice but to run away. And that's when she joined the Assassins Guild. Cashing in debts to raise an army, Aelin and her court travel around in Aurelia in an attempt to stop Lord Erewhon of the Valg, a demon-like race, from destroying the world. But with so many sworn enemies and want revenge, including Queen Maeve of the Fae. So Queen Maeve of the Fae has control over Rowan, her love interest, Aylin's love interest. Because Maeve is really evil and is really the worst. Survival seems unlikely. Aylin begins to realize that there are events in her life which may have not happened by coincidence. In fact, many have been pulling the strings in the background long before she was born, and that she was destined for something far greater than she thought. Tower of Dawn is part of the series and is a main book, but I think you could read it as just like a 0.5.
Standalone.
Yeah,
Kind of,
it was like a 0.5 type thing, but I think it's considered an actual part of the series. Taking place during the events of Empire Storms, Kael Westfall travels to the southern continent with Nezran Falik to seek treatment from the gifted healers there and persuade the southern continent to ally with him and his friends in the brewing war against Erewhon. I think at this,
You keep saying Erewhon, and it makes me think of the grocery
stores? Yeah, me too. I think Kael hurt his legs or something. I think he was paralyzed
back.
from waist down or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gureen Towers is a healer who Aylin meets when she's traveling under the name Selena, and they help each other. So Gureen Towers' attempts of healing him lead to her becoming very entangled in Kael's past, despite her own reservations against his loyalty to the very nation that prosecuted her family. Because Kael's family, I think, committed genocide against magic users.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Meanwhile, Nezran improves relations with her family during her stay and befriends Prince Sartak. Who the is Prince Sartak? Also, Aylin is imprisoned by Maeve
at the end of
Queen of
Shadow
Empire Storms. Yeah. So after being locked in an iron coffin for months by Maeve, Aylin resists torture in hopes of returning to her kingdom. Rowan searches with his friends, and a lead joins in to find Aylin, his mate, and his wife. Because, right, I forgot to mention, Rowan and Aylin's are surprise mates. Actually, Rowan was
shocker.
Yeah. Rowan was mated before to someone named Lyria, but her and their unborn child were killed. But actually, turns out Maeve manipulated him into thinking that Lyria was his mate when they were not mates. So Aylin is his real mate. Right. There's a character named Lysandra who shows up in some book, I think in one of the earlier books. She's also kind of enslaved in the
She's a courtesan.
Yeah. And she kind of works under the Assassins Guild. Adian and Lysandra continue to defend Terrasen with the armies that Aylin gathered before she was captured. Kael successfully allies with the southern continent, and his group races to reach his friends before it's too late. Manon and Dorian grow closer, and they travel to search for the Crotchen witches to raise an army, because Manon is actually like a princess or something of the Crotchen witches, or like one of the leaders, descendants, you know what I mean. And they try to find the final word key. They've been hunting for these word keys because it like unlocks something. I forgot.
I think it's like part of a gate.
Yeah, okay. It's a magical MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the final battle, Aylin and her friends win. Yay.
Doesn't she like give up her powers at the end or something?
She gives up part of her powers.
Yeah.
I think
So,
she and Dorian give up part of her powers.
Cool.
I think if Dorian was trained, he would have been more powerful than Aylin. I think he's one of the most powerful characters, but
He
wasn't
do much, I think, right?
Huh?
From what I remember, he doesn't do much.
He doesn't do much, yeah. Partly because he has this thing called like raw magic.
Yeah.
And so he had to hide his powers from his dad, the king. He couldn't train or anything.
Okay, so having only read the first two books, getting context for the rest of the series is wild because the first two books are nothing.
The
like
first two
that.
books for me are a completely different series.
Because like the first two books are just about like this assassin who wants to not kill people in the name of this tyrannical king. And then somehow we shift into actually she's a long lost fairy princess and she has to spend every other book gathering forces across the continent.
And do you know what sucks? Like the king of Adarlan, he's like super evil in every single book, right? It turns out like in the last book you discovered he was just possessed.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He was such a villain, and it turns out he was just possessed. His dad, the actual king, the non-possessed king, sacrifices himself or something for his son.
I think that all the characters being all powerful in some way or having like some kind of royal connection or connection to like some kind of like powerful being, it's great for the first two characters, but then when you start seeing it for every character, it gets very old. I would like to read a fantasy about a regular builds up his skills and he's not part of any kind of royal family. He's not having these special super duper powers in the context of the world, but for some reason he's special. because he's forced into some kind of event.
She main charactered every single one of her characters.
That's crazy. And you know what? As I'm listening to you guys explain like the later books, it sounds so repetitive to me. Those last couple of books were literally just, and then they go here and gather more forces.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like,
basically what it was like. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
And I think the actual war itself only covered like what, the last 100 pages of the last book.
I will stand on this hill that Kingdom of Ash is the most disappointing end to a series I've ever read.
Yeah.
It was lame as
Yeah.
it sounds like it.
in the end, it's like Rowan and Aelin live happily ever after. Dorian and Manon live happily ever after. Elide and some other Fae dude live happily ever after.
You already
Adian and
mentioned that.
Lysandra live happily ever after. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Only the unimportant or bad characters died.
The reason why it fell so flat was because there wasn't any depth in any of their characters.
Yeah.
All of them, I mean, they followed like the same cookie cutter formula. They're powerful. They have some kind of traumatic backstory. And with that backstory, they have PTSD. And then they find someone who helps them get over that. And then they get together.
Dude,
and then that was it.
I just realized Maeve is Amarantha. But she copy pasted.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I wonder if that's like the origin. Rowan and his friends go through the same things that Rhys went through in Under the Mountain.
I do want to actually talk about ACOTAR in the context of Throne of Glass, because as I'm hearing about it, I'm hearing a lot of similarities too.
Yeah.
But I want to, weren't the last couple Throne of Glass books coming out at the same time ACOTAR was? Yeah. So I wonder if like the whole
that was
Maeve
the
thing
origin
is,
point.
like,
Yeah, maybe she saw like, oh, this was working, or she got like an idea from it. And I think the inner circle, the start of the inner circle was Rowan and Aelin and their inner circle.
okay, so it's giving Court of Dreams.
Yeah, and they can also talk into each other's heads, or they like read each other's faces or something.
Like the bond with Maeve, it's like kind of same as like the bond that Rhys and
yeah, because they were also forced to do things they didn't want to
do. Yeah.
So I think that was its word for character, background for background.
It feels like with both Throne of Glass and the ACOTAR series, it's like when you're thinking of a story, right? You think of like different possibilities that the story could go in. And there might be like 2 paths that are vaguely similar to each other, but you can't do them both because they're that similar to each other. But it feels like SJM just went with it with Throne of Glass
And then
ACOTAR.
experiment in ACOTAR.
Yeah, that's how it feels like.
Okay. So on that note, do we want to jump into ACOTAR? Or do you guys have anything else you want to say about exclusively Throne of Glass?
I have
Not really.
some more things.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's a character called Caltaine Rompier. You would have seen her. You would have met her in the first book. She was one of. She was one of
sorry.
the ladies
She was
or
like
something.
a noblewoman in the
Okay.
first book, and she was like very bratty. She was
Yeah,
like very
she is.
spoiled.
I think the most interesting character in the whole series, because she's this bratty noblewoman, and then she gets
Like she's trying to find power
Mm-hmm.
as a noblewoman by like flirting with Dorian, basically.
But
like,
then
she's
she
trying to
gets-
get an inn in the palace.
she's a guest of this duke, and she gets imprisoned by the duke. We discover later. We meet her later in the series. She gets imprisoned by this duke, and
I think
she gets this. Her like mind is almost. It's really.
What happens to her relating to the Valg, like those
Yeah.
demon monsters.
And she has a like power called Shadow Fire, and it's really cool. She secretly destroys the Valg prince whom she was given to by the Duke. And then she gives Alita a word key and then destroys herself with the part of Morath where she endured that abuse. So I think she's such an interesting, it was like a backwards art. It was such a cool character. I think, yeah.
I think
What a waste of a
SJM's
character.
side characters have a lot of potential,
Yeah.
but then once she starts focusing on them as main characters, they kind of lose that multi-dimensionality.
Also, Lysandra and her kid she takes care of. That would have been a really interesting thing. There are very interesting side characters.
I genuinely think like each character, not just in Throne of Glass, but in ACOTAR, could have had their own books and series.
But should they?
No, they basically did have their own series because she main charactered every single side character. So they had their own books throughout each thing because we got all their POVs. Right. In the later books, she has like 13, literally like, I think it was like 11 to 13 POVs.
Probably.
Like,
Oh
what
my
the fuck am I
God.
supposed to do
Really?
with that? Yeah.
Oh wow!
Wait,
I
okay,
don't
so look.
remember. So
Because there's, we have the POVs of Rowan and his group. So
She
like
did
that's like
all
4
of the
people.
group?
Yeah. because Elite and
Lorcan
are traveling together. We get their
Yeah.
separate POVs, and then we get Manons, we get Dorans, we
Wow,
get Kales,
okay.
we get Nezrins, we get Urines, we
Yeah,
get
because we need to know the romance side on both
Of course,
sides.
of course.
yeah.
I wonder if part of the issue is also that like ACOTAR was becoming more popular, and so she was just losing interest in Throne of Glass.
I could see it
Okay.
while reading.
I think, yeah. I have like so much more to say, but like, just well, I had more to say on this than I thought.
Oh, keep
But I think it's
going.
because I was just like I was rereading these summaries and stuff, and I was like, oh, I remember this.
Well, yeah, this is your chance. Say anything else that you want to say about just Throne of Glass. We'll keep talking about it, but it'll be like in the context of the other books. So anything else you guys want to say about just Throne of Glass before we move on to ACOTAR?
Well, it's, like Aelin herself, I feel like she's one of the only like main characters I've read that's changed so much, like with personality too, because Selena was almost like a different person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I thought like it was just a name change, right? She's still Selena, she's still her,
Yeah.
but like Aelin is a different person.
That's true. That is so true. I think Selena was more human.
Yeah, I like Selena more.
I don't know if that
I couldn't I wouldn't say like relate. Like, I just
Empathize, maybe?
empathize with. I know, of course, I empathize with Aelin because real bad shit happens to her. But like, there's something like there was a divide.
So you couldn't connect to her.
Yeah, I couldn't connect to her.
I don't know if that difference between Selena as being more human and Aelin being less than that was intentional.
Yeah,
because Aelin from like, you know, Heir of Fire onwards had embraced her identity as a Fae. And like Fae see themselves as very different from humans. So I don't know if that
But she's also lived like what? How old is she in Throne of Glass? I don't know. She's also lived like
19 or something, 18
so
or
19. She's
right?
lived over a decade as quote unquote human.
Yeah. So
That's
it would have
more
been
than she's-
interesting to see like how that humanism in her would have carried on as she embraced her identity as a Fae Queen. But that
she
kinda
like
just
embraced
sort
it
of
immediately.
fell away, and I think that sort of came because of Rowan. Because like Rowan was pure kind of like Fae.
Yeah.
I mean that in the sense of like his attitude and his character.
Yeah, that's where like those stupid
Yeah.
terms come in, and I will not say them out loud. I will not say them out
Oh,
loud.
we'll get to it.
No, you can't make me.
We will.
I
get to
honestly
it.
can't say much about Throne of Glass because it's been so long since I've read it, and so what I remember is very superficial compared to ACOTAR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on that note, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, you do your thing and I will do this summary. Okay, this summary is going to be a little bit longer even though there's less books because there's a lot to talk about. A Court of Thorns and Roses is set in a world where humans and Fae are separated by a wall. So humans used to be basically like slaves to the Fae. There was a war. The war ended with a wall being built. Humans stay on their side, Fae stay on their side. The land of the Fae is called Prythian, and it's divided into 7 courts. There's the 4 seasons: summer, spring, winter, fall, and then there's day, night, and dawn. So the first book follows Feyre, who's a human huntress who lives with her sisters and father. She kills a wolf who turns out to be a Fae shapeshifter. And as punishment, she's given a choice by the Lord of the Spring Court, Tamlin, to either die or come with him to his court to live out the rest of her days. So obviously she chooses to go with Tamlin and not death. Although, I gotta be honest. She should have picked death.
No, honestly,
picked death.
if she picked death, all of that really fucking traumatizing shit wouldn't have happened to her.
Okay. That's not a pro statement. But moving on.
No.
When she arrives to the Spring Court, she finds out that the whole court has been cursed and they all have a mask glued to their face, including Tamlin. She meets Tamlin's best friend, Lucian, and they become friends. Over the course of the book, obviously, Feyre and Tamlin start to fall in love. And Feyre finds out that he's compensated her family and they're back to living the rich lifestyle they used to live before her father lost all their money and she was forced to be a huntress for survival. Eventually, Tamlin sends Feyre back home after telling her that he loves her and, like, as a sort of mercy, sends her home. She's unable to say it back to him, even though she does love him in that moment. She goes back to her family, but eventually decides that she, I guess, can't live without Tamlin or whatever and returns to go back and see him. And when she does, she finds out that the court is in ruin. There's a curse that's been put on Prythian that was done by a fae named Amarantha, who we were talking about earlier. Tamlin was given a chance to break this curse by getting a woman who hated the fae to instead say that she loved him. Since Farah didn't say it, the curse didn't break. Farah decides to go save Tamlin in Amarantha's court under the mountain. There, she's given an opportunity to complete 3 trials or guess the answer to a riddle. She finishes the trial with the help of the High Lord of the Night Court, Rysand, I think it's Rysand, who she met earlier in the Spring Court. In exchange for his help, she agrees to stay in his court, I think, for 1 week and a month. Amarantha gets really pissy that Farah solves her riddles and completes the trial.
Yeah.
Amarantha gets really pissy about it and beats Farah to death anyway. But in that moment, Farah solves the riddle, and the answer is love. It's a really stupid riddle, gang. It's a really stupid riddle. But she breaks the curse as she's dying. And in return, the High Lords kill Amarantha and they bring Farah back to life as a fae. They each give her like a kernel of their power, and that brings her back to life. And that's A Court of Thorns and Roses. Book 2, Court of Mist and Fury. Farah is back in the Spring Court, and she's having a difficult time to adjusting to becoming a fae. I think there's like a bunch of scenes where she's having trouble like holding a fork properly because she's so strong now that she keeps breaking it. She's set to marry Tamlin and is absolutely miserable. She's having like a trauma response, remembering her time under the mountain with Amarantha being tortured during these trials. On the day of her wedding to Tamlin, she begs for someone to save her, and Rhys shows up and takes her to the Night Court, like claiming that it's part of their deal. After the week is over and she goes back to the Spring Court, Tamlin locks her up, which again triggers her trauma response to being under the mountain. And she's saved by Morrigan, Rhys's cousin, and they bring her back to the Night Court, this time more permanently. While in the Night Court, Farah learns that war is coming, as Hybern, which is like an island country of fae, is unhappy that the humans have been separated by the wall because they want to go back to ruling over the humans with them as their slaves. Hybern is the one who sent Amarantha to see if the other fae could be subjugated. And she was more or less successful because I think she managed to do it for several decades before Farah shows up anyway. Farah joins Rhys and his court to try to stop Hybern. And his court consists of Amren, who is this vampire-like creature of nightmares. There's Morrigan, his cousin, Cassian, who's an Illyrian warrior, and Azriel, who's a shadow singer. I guess he's kind of like an assassin/spy.
I think so.
And their goal is to track down and decode this ancient book, which allows you to control the cauldron, which is the magical artifact that all fae came from. Hybern is collecting pieces of the cauldron in an attempt to bring down the wall and wage war. Farah is connected to this book and the cauldron. And so in addition to possessing all of the powers of all of the High Lords, since they gave her a little bit of her power to bring her back to life, she can also, I think, read the book. During the course of the second book, Rhys and Farah grow closer, and after Rhys is mortally injured, she discovers that they're mates, and Rhys has never told her about that.
Boo. Boo.
So initially she's really pissed off about it, but she forgives him, accepts their bond, and they get married in secret, making Farah the High Lady of the Night Court. Farah and the rest of the Night Court get captured by Hybern in their attempt to nullify the cauldron using the book, because Tamlin has sold them out in an attempt to win Farah back. Hybern gains control of the book and converts Farah's sisters, Nesta and Elaine, into fae in order to display like the power of the cauldron to the other human queens to convince them to join his side. In order to save everyone's life, Farah pretends that Rhys has been mind controlling her the whole time and returns with Tamlin, allowing the rest of her friends to escape. In the third book, A Court of Wings and Ruin, Farah's
Truly
back.
a ruin.
Girl.
Sorry.
Okay, Farah's back in the Spring Court with Tamlin, but things are a little different this time. She manipulates Tamlin and destroys his court. Not with any of her own actions, but literally by making Tamlin do it himself because he just sucks that bad. With the Spring Court in ruins, she returns to the Night Court with Lucian in tow. At the end of the second book, when Elaine has been turned into fae, it turns out that Lucian and Elaine are mates. And so Lucian wants to go back with Farah to see his new mate, Elaine. The rest of this book, we're going to skim over a lot of it because it's very, very long.
Yeah.
The rest of the book focuses on the efforts of the Night Court to wage war against Hybern and save both Prythian and the humans. This means talking to the other courts and convincing them to basically join their war efforts against Hybern. There is a very cool scene, which I think is probably my favorite scene in like the whole series, where they have a meeting with all of the High Lords, where the Night Court like sort of drops their facade of being like this sort of aloof, not evil, but borderline evil court. And they show that they're actually really prosperous and they're good people and they want them to help because they care about the humans. This actually, I think, sort of works. And a lot of the High Lords join their side.
Do they care about the humans or do they care about the humans because of Farah?
Well, the Night Court, I think Rhys is just genuinely... I'm saying genuinely with air quotes, a good guy. And so they...
Yeah, he's a feminist.
Well, 500 years he's been alive. You're telling
Yeah.
me in all of that time he didn't...
No, they do. They want to help.
Yeah.
They're good people. They don't want war and they don't want the wall going down. They don't want Hybern winning. So it's in everyone's best interest for the war to not happen, or the wall to not go down in that way.
Yeah.
So with the help of the lords, one of the human queens, Farah's father, and Tamlin, who turns out was a double agent the whole time, Farah and her friends managed to defeat Hybern and stop the cauldron. Rhys does die in that last battle while Farah is like trying to... I think she's like trying to...
I think I remember texting you at the time when I read it or something like that. When I read that particular scene where like Rhys... And at the time, I really liked the book. So I was like really scared that
he was going to stay dead.
Yeah.
Rhys dies in that last battle, like giving Farah like the extra magic that she needs. And Farah convinces the other High Lords to bring Rhys back the exact same way they brought her back, but this time he doesn't get all their powers. He comes back to life, and the two of them at the end of the book make this promise that when they die, they're going to go out together, because when fays make promises, it's like a magically binding contract. That's how Farah went back with Rhys once a month. And listen, it's real romantic, but also incredibly stupid for your leaders to promise that if one of them dies, the other one is also going to lie, leaving no one in
I
power.
honestly think it's kind of toxic too, like a toxic kind of love.
Absolutely.
I mean,
because like, okay.
No, I mean, there are couples who are like, I don't mind it, but like, it's just because they're in a certain position, right? They're like the leaders.
I don't know. I just feel like, the biggest kind of lasting kind of strength when it comes to love is being able to live even after if something happens to
I don't know, like if you love someone or something or so intensely, like you wouldn't want to live with
like
them.
I feel like there should be like a sort of understanding between the two people that if one of them is gone, right, then like
I think like if something unfortunate happens,
something else to happen.
No, yeah. I think if something
like,
unfortunate happens and one goes out earlier than the other in like a middle age or like something like in an earlier age, yeah. I think like if you're older, like if you're like reaching the end of your lives, I get it.
I get it, but these guys are immortal.
Oh yeah, these guys have no excuse. Also, like. No, you have to talk about Silver Flames.
Okay. Yeah, so speaking of this point specifically, it comes up again. We're only going to talk about Silver Flames so briefly because, dear gods, does nothing happen in this book. So this book is from Nesta. It's not from Nesta's POV. It's just broadly about her. I don't know if I've mentioned Nesta is the eldest sister. She's Farah's older sister. It's about her trauma following the events of A Court of Wings and Ruin. She feels this attraction to Cassian, and the two of them form a relationship over the course of the book. In the background of this, Rhys and Farah are having a baby, but Farah is under threat of death because turns out the baby has wings and she does not have the parts to push out a baby with wings.
Stupid.
Gang,
you know what?
She should have laid it. Listen, magic exists.
Shit.
She should have
She
should have laid a fucking egg.
Listen. They can bring people back to life. They can resurrect, like they create huge walls. They can change reality itself. But motherfuckers can't discover a C-section.
Well,
I'm just saying.
That is like a symptom of a larger problem in her books, and it's that everyone in those books are so freaking overpowered.
Yeah.
Right? When everyone is Mary Sue and like they can do anything and they're like all powerful, then it leaves little room for there to be any drama, for there to be any plot, like lasting plot.
Yeah.
Right?
Like on it, speaking back to that C-section, even Carlisle and Edwards figured out a way to bring Bella back from the fucking. Like,
I know. Anyway, but the goes on while Nesta's doing like her journey of healing, which involves her reviving the Valkyries, which is this group of ancient female warriors. She makes her friends. She completes these trials to become an official Valkyrie and stuff. At the end of the book, she sacrifices all of her powers to the cauldron to save Farah's life. She and Cassian are mates. They get married. Truly, who gives a fuck?
And also like she sacrifices her powers.
That was such a cop out.
No, that
dude,
they probably, I didn't read it, but they probably made that out to be like a big thing and to make up for everything she's done to Farah. But also she didn't want those powers in the first place, so she
oh my god
got what she wanted, right?
Okay. So something I want to talk about, because I think the thing that pisses me off most about these books and something that really made me angry, I didn't want to read Silver Flames because I don't like Nesta and I don't like Elaine. I think I like Elaine even less than Nesta. So for context, Farah starts off as a huntress, right? She is hunting every day because her family is like destitute. Nesta purposefully wastes any money that Farah brings into the family, and Elaine is so like oblivious to everything that she fucking spends all their money like growing flowers and stuff.
And keep in mind that Farah is the youngest.
She's
sister.
the youngest.
So like technically
it infuriates me.
Yeah.
It truly infuriates me.
And we're supposed to forgive them and move on. And Farah puts so much importance on her sister. It was, I guess, whatever, familiar bonds, whatever. But I don't care about Nesta and Elaine. They're terrible.
We're all older siblings, right?
Yes.
Imagine doing that to your younger sibling. Like, that's wild.
I think that's why I really can't reconcile it in my head. Is like, there's simply no universe in which I would force my younger siblings to risk their life every day and make things worse for them. And
I think, at least for me, like the age gap between me and my sibling is pretty large. So like I remember when he was a baby, right? And so being in a situation where that would happen, like I would not. Yeah. I could
but
never.
if I had to categorize my sibling as if we were in that position, my sibling would be Elaine.
As is his right as the baby. Like, but Elaine is older than Farah too. Okay, Elaine really, really pisses me off. Yeah. Everyone is so nice to Elaine, and I'm like, why?
What did she do to deserve this niceness?
That's my point.
Because she's a flower girl. She likes flowers.
Yeah, like Sarah J. Maas characterizes her as like this sort of dainty, almost frail kind of character, and
she's fucking Faye now. She's not frail from my ass.
She has no character. She has no personality.
Yeah,
Elaine is Elaine because she's cute, or like
I honestly. But the problem is that because SJM doesn't even do a good job of describing that, everyone else is having a reaction to her that I just cannot understand.
Like as soon as they see her, they're like, "Oh my god,
it's like Elaine.
Like I want to protect her. She's got to be protected."
Yeah.
Dude, and like, okay, in the Nesta book, so I think the whole point of Silver Flames was to make Nesta a more likable character, because the same problem they have with Elaine, I think also Nesta has, where it's like all Nesta does in the first 3 books is be rude to everyone. She's so unrelentingly bitchy, but inexplicably everyone doesn't love her, but they put so much importance on her as a character. Like, we, for some reason, have to care about Nesta, and I never understand it. So I think the whole point of Silver Flames was, like, to redeem her character a little bit, like, explain where she's coming from. And I gotta be so for real. Even knowing her trauma, I'm sorry, she's still an awful person.
I'll be honest with you, I actually kind of liked Nesta before Silver Flames.
Okay, we've got
I'm judging you a little bit.
Yeah, like I don't.
But I say like in the sense that I didn't hate her. I can't say that I loved her, but I liked her because she was a horrible person in the first book, right?
Was she just
she was horrible. She was jealous. She was irresponsible.
Did she just like add spice to the situation? That's why you liked it? Because it was too bland otherwise?
I think I saw potential for character development in the third book, when Feyre and the Inner Court, they go and visit Nesta and Elaine. There's a scene where they do that, and I think I don't
No, I think I
remember why they go and visit her, but
because they're something about like the human queens.
No, I think also Nesta and Elaine also have that same connection to the cauldron that Feyre does, I believe.
but they
right?
were still human at
No,
the
no,
time.
they visited
Oh,
for the
you're
human
talking about the
queens.
first book, not the third book.
No, the third book in the middle.
The third book they were already Fae.
Sorry, second book. Second book,
Okay,
second
yeah.
book.
No,
My
they're
bad.
they go over there for like reconnaissance because they
I
want the
think-
human queens are doing something.
I think they also wanted the sisters to host the human queens, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
yes,
That's why they
that's
went there
correct.
to ask.
Yeah.
So there's a scene, and like Nesta kind of says that like she regrets treating Feyre like that.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm not saying that her just saying it is a reason to.
But you
erase,
thought there'd be
but
something
I thought
there.
there was like building a foundation for her to make up for her past sins, and then Silver Flames completely erased all of that.
So here's the thing, though. I came out of Silver Flames liking Nesta. I don't like her, but I like her more, and I like every single other character less.
I agree with that. I liked Cassian was my favorite character in the Court of Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. And
Dude,
it's so sad.
every single character, like Amryn was my favorite character because she was just so cool.
Yeah.
And then Silver Flames comes out, and Amryn is such an unrelenting asshole. I'm just like, you know what? I think everyone sucks here.
Yeah.
Even Feyre, I think.
Feyre annoys me so much. She annoyed me from the beginning because
Interesting.
she didn't have any. She was so flat. Like I.
So you
You think-
didn't
you
hate
think
her character,
Feyre's
you hated
flat.
her
I
the
ha-
writing of
I
the
hated-
character.
The biggest issue I have with these books are the writing. It's just because they had so much potential. All of the
Yes.
characters except Feyre had distinct personalities. They were likable in their own way. Either you liked to hate them or you genuinely liked them.
Oh man, I have a theory, but I don't know if we might need to talk about Crescent City before I can say what my theory is. But I think there's a reason for that, why Feyre is so flat as a character.
Oh,
but yeah.
I do want to like Farah and her sisters, their mom died, and they do have a dad. The most incompetent person I've ever read.
Oh my god. Yeah, speaking of I think honestly there was so much emphasis on Farah's family and like expecting us to care about them, but I truly could not care. When her dad shows up in that last battle, I'm like,
I was like,
Who?
hey. I was
Okay,
like, he's
but,
finally
like,
gonna die. Hey.
They didn't.
He like sacrifices himself for
Yeah.
his daughters,
There
and I
was
was like,
this
you should have
there
done
was
this
this
a while
unseen
back.
plot point where like Lucian
Yeah.
goes off to try and recruit like the humans or something like that.
yeah.
Something I don't even remember because it was just like 2 pages that it was mentioned in the books, and then suddenly they show up with like a navy or something.
Guys,
Oh, from
why
like another
is-
island or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Why is Lucian more interesting than like half the Court of Dreams?
Well, he's interesting now, but I'm sure if SJM starts focusing on him as a main
Oh,
character,
he'll become
Yeah,
boring.
because-
he'll become more like Reese or Asriel or something like that.
Oh my god, Cassian was basically Diet Reese in Silver Flames.
Like Diet Reese.
That is so true. That is so true. That is very true. And like the sort of superiority complex that Feyre and Reese started to have, I think beginning the 3rd book just got on my nerves
Oh, yeah.
so much. Oh my gosh, we are the High Lord and High Lady of the Night Court. Oh
Yo,
my gosh. we
it
care about
pissed me-
humans so
it pissed
much.
me off.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
You know,
the
you say that,
immediate-
but also Farah also just becomes like such a side character of her own goddamn series in Silver Flames because they don't tell her that she could potentially die when
Yeah,
with
that-
her baby. That
that
pissed me off.
ruined Reese for me, like,
Yeah.
completely. Like, I had my reservations, I had my gripes about him, but like,
Yo, at least Rowan wouldn't do that. Like at the very least.
I
Ro-
honestly don't know.
No,
Like,
I don't think Rowan would do that. And especially
like he
after
would.
he
You know,
lost his
like
for
with the
all
whole
his
like
faults- He lost
they
his former
mate
wife and-
obsession. Like,
No,
I feel
I
like
don't see it in his personality. And
Mhm.
also like Farah and Aelin are wildly
True,
different. Farah
true.
may be like OP, but she doesn't use those powers. Aelin uses them in a
Aelin,
smart
I think,
way.
is more stronger too,
I-
mentally speaking.
Also, okay, I kind of understand to some degree. I understand the logic where Reese is like, she is so excited about this baby. If we tell her it's gonna kill her, it'll ruin the experience. Also, from a medical standpoint, there is an argument you can make that when you have somebody in like a high stress situation, it can make their vitals, you know, a little worse. Like you don't want to stress out your patient. But that only works for a little bit. They waited way too long, and then they tried to shame Nesta for being the one to tell Farah. That was the moment I started liking Nesta more, is when she caved and she told Farah, hey, by the way, here's what your perfect husband isn't telling you.
But I don't think Nesta, from what I remember, I don't think Nesta did it from like a place of...
No. She wasn't being malicious. She was like...
Oh, okay.
Well, wait, no, actually she might have been malicious. Now that I think about it, that might have been the intention. I don't care. The fact that at least she did it.
Yeah.
At least she did it. I don't know.
I mean, it's like, it's her, it's like Farah's body.
I know.
Her life, okay? Like,
it's sad, but you need to tell her so she can make the medical decisions. I'm sorry.
And it was pointless drama too, because there were so many plot holes with that storyline. Like, you're telling me that they have like this really good healer, and like you're telling me Farah can shapeshift. You're telling me that it would...
I think they said that she couldn't because it would affect the baby, but I know it's some bullshit. It is some bullshit.
Forget about that. Like, they're friends with the court that heals, right? Or like they're friends with...
I think just
they're also like the leaders of the...
Well, they asked them and they said that they couldn't do... Guys, I think just as like a former pre-med girly, I just couldn't like... I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But even in humans, we could make this work.
Also, if Farah died during childbirth, that means Reese would die too, and that's
the problem.
And Amren really like cut them a new one.
Yeah, which
like she was like, "What the heck were you guys thinking?"
As she should. Yeah. I think it's like they make it a point at the end. They're like, Amren was like, "Why are you so fucking stupid?"
I mean, I think Amren is probably the smartest out of all of them.
Yeah, but she also sucks now.
Yeah.
So.
No, I feel like Amren in like the last 2 or 3 books off to like the summer court for her with her boy toy. Like I just
she was kind of
like,
iconic for that. Dude, I'm telling you, every bit you love Amren in the first 3 books, Silver Flames wrecks her character to a degree that you just cannot come back from. I'm sorry. She's just so unrelenting. She's so cruel for absolutely no reason. Elaine is so cruel to Nesta for no reason. I'm like,
I don't actually remember that part. Like,
Elaine is cruel to Nesta?
Yeah, Elaine adopts this fucking attitude that made me so angry, where she's like,
well, at least she's got a personality now, and it's
it's not like she's being overtly bitchy. It's more like
holier than thou.
Arrogance?
Yes, it's holier than that. That's literally what it's like. Nesta, you need to be nice to Farah because you can't be stressing her out with the baby. I'm like, Elaine, you can fully off.
Elaine, you have no relationship with this baby. I don't know what the fuck you're doing here. Go to
the top of these 10,000 stairs and throw yourself off of them. Truly, no one cares about your opinion. No one asked. Leave. I can't. I hate Elaine.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Elaine is a character who tries to main character herself.
Okay. So some pure ACOTAR stuff I want to talk about before we talk about ACOTAR in the context of Crescent City as well. One of the things that people love about ACOTAR is like the romanticy of it all, is like Reese and Farah's romance. And so you were talking about it a little bit already, that Reese is kind of like, you had your reservations about him.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about Reese and Farah, especially in comparison to Aelin and Rowan?
I think I can talk about Reese and Farah more because that's whom I remember the most. But how do I put this? I think Reese represents a sort of facade of feminism, in the sense that he's always like, you have the choice to do this, you have the choice to do that. And if you compare him with Tamlin from book 2, he certainly seems like the golden standard. And I, as a high school student, was like in awe of that, right? Like the way he seemed to like sort of treasure Farah and all of that. But then as I sort of grew more mature, I started to realize that that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You know, like, sure, you should celebrate it, I guess. You should point it out. But it shouldn't be like the reason why this character is such a great character, if that makes sense.
I also think that in terms of feminism, it's kind of rough that every bit of power comes from Reese.
Mm,
There's so many things in the book that I feel like are done to make Reese look like a good person.
yeah.
Even though like you have the choice, and it's like
He's
his
the one
motivations.
giving the choice.
He's the one giving the
right?
choice, like every
if,
bit.
If he wasn't there, then Pharaoh would still be in the Spring Court.
It's so frustrating that she doesn't get recognized for being the curse breaker, but she does for being the High Lady of the Night Court. And even then, she's only being recognized as High Lady of the Night Court because Reese is saying that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
I mean, I'm honestly, that makes sense because
It's like a
if you
title
look
without,
throughout
like,
history,
any
right?
real-
If you look throughout history, in some instances, as a woman, you kind of need to piggyback off of the power that the men hold in order to gain your own standing. So, from that sort of perspective, I kind of see why SJM would have done it, but I
But
don't.
it's also like a fantasy book, so
Yeah,
but it's
she could have done her own
also
thing.
That's
just like
true.
really frustrating when this whole series is supposed to be like, here's a strong female character, here's feminism in literature, and it's like you're reading it, it's all of it is being done to make this guy look like the good guy, and it's
Yeah.
just like,
yeah.
to me, that was really frustrating.
I also the reservations I had, especially as I grew older about Rhysand, was just the way that he would like talk about Farah, like especially like in front of people, and this was before that they had started a relationship, right? He would always like objectify her
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and like during the events of the end of the first book where he was like doing some very inappropriate stuff with Farah, and like sure you can say that he did it to protect her, but for
No.
me that is such a flimsy excuse. If you truly love someone, I don't know if the situation was that bad enough that he felt he had to resort to that.
Also, Farah is a very isolated 19-year-old.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was just all she knew was really just trying to provide for her family, and like she was just like dragging herself.
I think we talked about it in like I want to say romance, or like maybe it was Gulag, where it's like the age gap is definitely like weird, but you don't really think about it because Farah doesn't feel like a kid a lot of the times. I feel like
think-
you can age her up in your mind.
No, but Farah feels like now that I'm older, Farah very much feels her age when with Tamlin, like in the first book.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Like it's that immediate she falls in like right.
It's
like,
very
all-
childish.
Yeah, it's
She doesn't listen to whatever.
yeah, and they try to make
says.
her relationship with Reese is more quote unquote
Mature.
grown up,
Yeah.
and it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And
Especially the way
also-
they like flirt with each other and stuff like that. That's just very juvenile in my opinion.
I feel like they had an opportunity to just like ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
When SJF starts drawing attention to the age gap, like the 3.5 book, which by the way, we didn't summarize because really
Nothing happens.
nothing of
Yeah.
importance happens. Reese and Farah decide to have a baby. That's why they do in Silver Flames.
I
but-
forgot about that.
But then Reese makes this point where he's complaining to like Tamlin, not Tamlin, definitely not Tamlin.
What are you talking about? They're besties.
Cassian.
They're actually
Well, he
sipping tea in
does
a
go
corner.
see him in that book, but he's complaining to Cassian and Azrael. He's like, I feel bad because she hasn't experienced so much of life and now she's married to me. It's like, you had a choice. You didn't have to marry her. Like, oh, you have the choice. You have the choice. Reese, you had a choice too. You could have chosen not to take a child bride.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, and like you could say, oh, she's over 18 and stuff, but when you compare that
But-
with 500 plus,
It's a little weird.
it is a little weird. And I think the way it was written was also kind of weird too, because Rhysand and like the rest of the inner court don't feel like 500-year-old beings either. They're so immature. Like,
No, I think they
Yeah.
feel like 500-year-old beings who've lived that long to become like
that child.
that have no they yeah, but instead of childish I would describe it as like an I don't give a shit personality.
mm.
Okay, that's fair.
Like I've been through
I-
so much, what's the point? I'm just gonna do whatever the hell I want.
I just feel like it could have been more romantic if Reese had been like, but what if we chill until you also have a couple decades of
Hmm.
experience? But the point was to make her High Lady of the Night Court.
Yeah.
It was to give her like political authority, which I don't know.
Well,
Why did she need political authority?
I
don't-
don't
ask
know
SJM,
because
I
she
don't know.
doesn't do much, right?
Why is
like,
Farah the
She doesn't do
chosen? Wait,
shit as High Lady.
wait, question. Why is Farah the chosen one?
Great question.
Is she's not the
I
chosen
think
one.
it was because they suggested she was related to Aelin somehow.
No. Oh, isn't she part of like a prophecy or something? Because that's why she killed the wolf.
I just remember
That though in the beginning, she was part of Tamlin's prophecy.
No, she's part of the deal to make somebody who hates the Fae fall in love.
Oh, so she's not that.
But
specific.
I think she's like a descendant of some. She has like Fae lineage.
Yeah, that I remember her hinting at that, but I don't know if she's directly related to Aelin, but I think there was like a part where they suggested something, or like there's a connection somewhere. Yeah,
but I don't know. Honestly, I feel like the human queen plotline was a lot more interesting than most of what was going on.
Yeah, especially the youngest queen.
Yeah, the one who's like turns into a fiery bird or something. Like what?
Yo,
we're most likely gonna get an Elaine book for the next ACOTAR book, but I would much rather read a Lucian and human queen and Jurian book than I would an Elaine book. Also, I probably won't be reading it. I'm not gonna like Silver Flames really soured my opinion of a lot of ACOTAR. Well, not as much as other things, but it definitely didn't help.
Hey, so this is editing Kiko. We decided to split this one into 2 parts since it's going to be a long one. This is the end of part 1. Part 2 will be coming out soon. You can follow us at Listen Day Pod on Instagram and Blue Sky. You can also follow us on Storygraphs and Goodreads. We have a YouTube channel, which is at Less Than a Day. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Bye.